there, I'm a young Earth creationist, and today I want to talk a little bit about whether or not creationism is a conspiracy theory. Now, you probably already know my answer. I wouldn't be a creationist if I thought that being a creationist was conspiratorial. So, I have a bias. But I think it's important to be self-reflective and to think about your own motives and thought processes to properly analyze why you come to the conclusions that you do. So part of this video is just an exercise in being self-critical. Am I truly a conspiracy theorist? Is there a way in which I can actually distinguish what I believe from the definition of a conspiracy theory? Unfortunately, among some kind of groups today, conspiracy theories are kind of promoted, and the idea that someone is conspiracy or conspiratorial isn't viewed as negative, it's viewed as a positive. If you're conspiratorial, that means you're properly, sufficiently critical of mainstream ideologies or agendas. Others want to label everything they disagree with as a conspiracy theory. So I think we have to kind of begin by, first of all, kind of setting a baseline for what a conspiracy theory really is. And I think generally it can be agreed upon that a conspiracy theory is this idea that there is some secret plot or conspiracy that is furthered by people who have power or influence. In other words, powerful people are pushing a false agenda to get away with some secret objective. I think it is also important to explain what I mean when I say that I'm a creationist. I am a young Earth creationist. So I believe that God created the world through his supernatural power, that he spoke things into existence, and things both material and spiritual beings like the angels came into existence through his power. And I believe that this creation event happened over the course of 6 literal, ordinary 24-hour days, and that this creation event happened about 6,000 years in the past. Now, this version of history is very much rejected by mainstream science. Mainstream geologists argue that the world is much, and the universe is much older, about 13 billion years. And evolutionary scientists argue that God did not create various forms of life, but rather that all life evolved from a common ancestor. And so you have to understand that young Earth creationism is very much repudiated by the mainstream scientific community. Now, my belief that mainstream science is wrong about the age of the Earth and the origin of life may very well strike you as conspiratorial. Surely the belief that so many different scientists all around the Earth are wrong must have some conspiratorial aspect to it. You have to understand that conspiracy theories are judged by their own informational content, the actual claims that those theories make, not by how many people hold to them. And this is obviously how ideas in science make progress over time, right? When a scientist says, no, the current scientific precedent and theories are wrong, I have a new idea that actually works better, they're not a conspiracy theorist, rather they are simply presenting an alternative idea. And I think that is very much the case with creationism. Creationism is not alleging a conspiracy theory, rather it is presenting an alternative explanation for the data. So going back to our definition of a conspiracy theory, let's think about the essential parts of that definition and whether or not we can use them to diagnose creationism as a conspiracy theory. So first of all, let's begin with this idea of a secret plan or a plot. For creationism, this would have to be some sort of secret plan to intentionally mislead the public. Evolutionary scientists would have to know that creationism is true, but want to deceive the public by misrepresenting data, by altering or changing fossils, manipulating them. And this idea would have to see evolutionary scientists as fundamentally dishonest. These people are out there simply to push their own agenda and deceive people. And that idea is wrong. I've talked with many different evolutionary scientists, and when I talk with them, I don't see someone who is fundamentally dishonest, who is simply working to disprove creationism. In fact, many of them aren't even familiar with the modern theory of creationism or the fact that it even has modern proponents at all. Instead, what I see is people who are interested in studying nature, very much like myself. People who have a desire to understand the intricacies of the natural world. So I don't see these scientists who are trying to mislead people. I see people who are passionate about doing good work and are passionate about communicating their ideas to the public. So I think, first of all, that this idea is fundamentally wrong. Now, that's not to say that there aren't any creationists who advocate for this theory. There are some. Some creationists do believe that evolutionary scientists are committing frauds all the time, that evolutionary scientists know creationism is correct, is true, and that they are trying to deceive people. There is simply no evidence that there is any widespread attempt by the evolutionists to do this. There simply is none. There's no evidence of widespread fraud in support of evolutionary theory. The only real basis that this idea has is the fact that every person on Earth is biased. I have a bias based on how I was brought up, my reading of the Bible, the ideas, the ideologies that I hold to. Evolutionists have bias too. And because of our biases, we all tend to ask a little bit of different questions about the world. We're interested in different aspects of science, and that leads us to come up with different theories, that leads us to investigate different fields of research. But the fact that we all have biases is something that is ingrained. Yes, we can determine our biases, but someone having biases does not make them dishonest. Evolutionary scientists are not deceptive simply because they have this bias against the existence of a creator in a young Earth. Now, they are biased, and that will lead them to interpret things in a different way than a creation scientist will, but there is nothing that is necessarily dishonest or deceptive about that. It is simply the natural result of beginning with a different worldview. Now, these creationists sometimes will bring up Bible passages that refer to the willful ignorance of unbelievers and imply that these passages mean that evolutionists are willfully ignorant of the fact that the Earth is 6,000 years old, or the fact that there are created kinds. But if we look at the context of these passages, they're really talking about judgment. People are willfully ignorant that people in the past were judged for their sin via flood, and they're also ignorant of the fact that in the future there will be a judgment for people who do not believe as well. So this is a much more general statement about people not wanting to believe that God will judge them for their sin, and not a specific statement about how exactly people believe about what people believe about the age of the earth or something like that. Now, the Bible teaches this idea that we term general revelation, this idea that by looking at the natural world and its beauties and intricacies, everyone can come to the conclusion independently that there must have been a creator. But as the name implies, this is a general conclusion. It's not really specific to the Christian God, or the method of creation, or the date at which creation happened. It's simply a general statement about whether or not the world was created. And so I think it's kind of incorrect to apply those passages in this instance as well, because although we could make some claim about evolutionists being willfully ignorant of the fact that there is a God who is the ultimate cause of all things, I don't think we can say they are willfully ignorant of a young Earth. Then we come to the second aspect of a conspiracy theory, namely the actual conspirators. Conspiracy theories are generally about subjects so obvious or widespread or naturally believed that they require very powerful people to actually enforce. So for example, if we think of something like the moon landing, we have so much evidence for it that there has to be this huge cover-up, and because the cover-up needs to be so huge, there has to be some powerful people behind it. Well, the same would need to be true with any conspiracy theory that developed out of creationism. If all of these people are actually secret creationists who are simply lying about it, there would need to be some sort of central organizing body or association or individual who would be controlling how evolutionists do research and controlling what they teach. Now, this isn't to say there aren't any evolutionary organizations or guidelines about how to teach or how to present material to the public. Of course there are. But I'm saying there is no evidence that there is an organized worldwide plot to do this sort of thing. So I think that based on what we've talked about so far, it's pretty obvious that you can make creationism into a conspiracy theory. I think it's kind of like getting to the right conclusion the wrong way. Right? So if you believe that evolutionists are out there lying and manipulating data to deceive people into thinking creationism is false, and you think that that is part of some organized plan, then congrats. That basically meets the definition of a conspiracy theory. But I don't believe that. And I don't view myself as a conspiracy theorist because of that. I don't think there is any organized plan, and I don't think that evolutionists are at large misrepresenting or faking data. I think that they are honestly approaching science. The mosquitoes are getting kind of bad out here in the woods. I keep swatting them away. So I think this is gonna have to wrap it up for me, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know down in the comment section below whether you think young Earth creationism is a conspiracy theory or not. Thanks so much for watching.